Hey there! Today we'll have a look at an interesting pen. I was contacted by Andrea of Martemodena, a fountain pen store in Italy, and they have launched their own pens. They have collaborated before with other companies, and this time the collaboration is with Marlen in Italy. Marlen is, of course, the company that brought us the Aleph, which you may remember I reviewed it quite a while ago actually. That was that was developed in collaboration with people on an Italian fountain pen forum. It had a flex nib. It was, I thought it was a pretty interesting pen, the Aleph. And now we have, I dropped it, we have the Martemodena Citizen. And the Citizen series commemorates a whole bunch of cities. And in this case, it's the Moscow. I got the Moscow model. There's a couple of others, but this is the Moscow. So I'm going to cover the parts of the pen, tell what I like about it, what I don't like about it, and then we'll do a writing sample. But first of all, a kind thank you to Martemodena, of course, for sending me this pen. I appreciate it. I like the box. The box of the pen is simple, but it really ties in with the theme of the pens. I think that's very cool. The Citizen has a little sort of old globe map. I guess it's not a globe, I mean it's a map of the globe. What do you call that? A map of the earth. I like that. It's a nice touch. It's a bit vintage looking. I enjoy that. Also, the Martemodena website is on there should you want to check that out. Sleeve comes off and you have this box, which is a sort of a faux leather, fake leather. It looks nice. Simple, opens up, and then there is a little information booklet, warranty, etc. This is the, as I said, the Moscow model, and that's pretty much it. Okay, so Здравствуйте, друзья. I thought it was. Hello friends! Moscow. Here we have it. The pen. Okay. Made from solid block of resin, they say. They have different colors depending on the cities you get, and they try to put, I think, the colors of the flags of the countries the cities are located in into the pen. So Russia, of course, has a flag that has blue, red and white in it, just like my flag does, but in a slightly different orientation. So you see those colors back in the pen. I think it's a neat concept. So let's have a look at this pen. There on top you have the Martemodena logo on the finial. They consider this to be a bit of a shield, and then here the clip is supposed to be a sword, so it's a bit of a knight with a K theme they're going for. On the clip is also a Martemodena again. Then you have a Greek key design on the cap there. Now we have the barrel and a little blind cap. I'll come back to that. Unscrew the cap, and then you have the section and ink window. And of course here you have the white, blue and red of the Russian flag. Interesting, there's a clear bit there, an ink window, and I'll come back to that in a second. A classic, slightly hourglass shaped section in white. I do like it because it is a slightly marble striated, I would almost say, white, so it looks a bit like marble, which is quite nice. It's not a small pen, and they advertise this pen as befitting of every hand, so it doesn't matter whether you have larger hands or smaller hands, it should work regardless, and I can see how that would work. It's definitely, I would say, a slightly bulky section. I don't mind, but maybe if you have very small hands, that would be a bit of an issue. Bock nib, number 6, also has the Martemodena M on there, well, not a solid gold nib, it's a gold-plated nib. There's nothing wrong with that. And here we have the feed. I like the curvature in the feed. I like that gives it a nice rounded off look. I like that when brands do that. Okay, what about this pen? How does it work? How does it fill? Two ways to fill it. The blind cap comes off, and then you have a piston turning knob. Is it really a piston? No. It's actually, of course, I mean, you can pretty much disassemble this entire pen and take off a little tube every time you do so. It's a captive converter, alright? So you can actually take it out, so I guess it's not really captive, but it is in the pen. Interesting thing is, cheaper than a piston filler usually is, but you do get the idea of a piston filler, and I must say they have done it well, because first of all, of course, you can also fill it like this. You can disassemble the whole thing, put it in a bottle of ink like this, turn the knob, drop ink. That's all there. You could also put in a cartridge, I guess, if you really want to. I don't really see the advantage of that, but maybe if you're on the road or something. The nice thing is that ink window, once you put this on, there's no way of telling you're looking at a converter, at least none that I know. It really looks like a piston filler. And you can operate it like this. Put in the bottle of ink and operate it from here. There's more than enough of the turning knob available for your fingers to manipulate so that you can ink that up. Then just put that blind cap back on there and you're done. Okay, what do I like about the pen? What do I not like about the pen? This pen was sent to me specifically for feedback purposes. So here we go. I think this pen has some cool things going for it. I like that it's a series that commemorates several cities. There's a Moscow, there's, I thought it was Tokyo, but it's, wait a minute, I have it open here. There is a citizen of Tokyo, there is a citizen of Beijing, there is Mumbai, there is London, etc. So you have a lot of these cities. That makes it collectible. Collectible is always interesting, it's always nice. Also, of course, it allows you to buy a pen of a city that is dear to you, a city that you like, so you can figure something out that you want. The pen wrote. I like that. It has a Bock nib, it's a simple nib, it's a modest nib, but it does everything it's supposed to do, it writes well. I like the idea of a captive converter. It's a little bit of cheating because it's not an actual piston, it's just a converter in a pen body. But does it really matter? As I said, I mean, I think it looks pretty cool. It looks pretty well. The ink window really works. That's a nice touch. And you do have a blind cap. Another thing that I noticed in this is that the pen is very light. It has a slightly plasticky feeling to it. But what I do really appreciate is that the parts are very flush. Not the cap, but when you look at the barrel and the blind cap, you barely feel a seam. So they did do a very good job, Marlene, of making this in such a way that it doesn't stick out. It's not, you know, misaligned. So you have the barrel here and you have the blind cap kind of half there. It's very flush, very nice. So it does feel good. Now what you want to know is, the pen writes well, you have a captive converter, you have various cities. How much? 99 euros. So it's almost 100 euros. That's not that cheap. You get a steel nib, you get a cartridge converter filled pen basically, but it is well made. So I do see some of the value, and I really like that you have these different cities. Would I personally buy it? Probably not. Probably not. And that's partially a personal preference. I don't like the looks of it that much. I think my biggest issue is, like this, with the grey and red, I'm not sure. I think it gets more interesting once it becomes uncapped and you see the colours of the Russian flag, and then it starts to make sense, and then it also becomes a bit, I don't know, more cheery to me. This looks a bit, I don't know, a little bit bland, although this, in the right light, looks a little bit like a Mont Blanc Hemingway, but it's not. So, an interesting pen in itself. Worth it for you? That's up to you. If there's any of these cities that you really like, I can see how it would have some appeal. What we need to see is how the pen writes. That's what's coming up next. Measurements of the pen, as well as high-resolution pictures, will be on the website, sbrebrown.com. A thank you to Martemodena for sending me one. I appreciate it. I do think it's an interesting concept, and I hope this is going to take off well. And that's all there's to it. I hope this was useful so far, and I'll gladly see you later. Bye bye. Okay, so here we go with the Martemodena Citizen, and to be more precise, the Moscow, the nib is a, yes, undefined fine medium I think, and the ink is Mont Blanc Corn Poppy Red. Okay, there we go, let's do some writing. The nib is smooth. The one thing you notice though is that it is an absolute nail. Very, very rigid. And let's do some fast writing. The issue with that is that it doesn't really detract from the nib's smoothness. Jumps dog over lazy. Talking very fast writing don't go well together. It doesn't really detract from the nib's smoothness. You definitely feel the smoothness, but because it is so hard, it doesn't really yield as you write, and that does, for some reason, make it feel a little bit, I don't know, not so much less smooth, but less giving. And some people really like that very hard writing quality. I personally like it when a nib has a little bit of yield to it, but that is a personal thing. It is definitely a smooth nib. There's nothing wrong with it. It's definitely not scratchy. Let's check out the nib's wetness. It's not a gusher, but it's not super dry. Line variation. I'm really pushing down hard to squeeze this out. So as you can see, it's not really the type of nib where you really, you know, that's really going to give you line variation. Reverse writing is not really possible. As you can see, it gets way too dry quickly and there's nothing left. So that doesn't work. So, a kind thank you to Martemodena for sending me this pen. I appreciate it. Hope this was useful, and I'll gladly see you later. Bye bye.